Hello everybody, it is me, Scotty, your friendly neighborhood body double, and today I have some stuff to tackle. So, the attic is open. I've got to take all of this stuff, which is the Halloween things, and put them in the attic and get down the Christmas decorations. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because as I've been going through my to-do list and everything, one of the things that I want to do is to finish setting up a makerspace over here so that we've got a spot for arts, crafts, things like that. I don't know, sewing, just anything that we want to build, kind of to have it in that area. But to do that, I also have to get another doom pile under control, which if you look back there, Nerf guns. So many Nerf guns. Long story, we can talk about it later, but this is kind of one of the things that we fall into, and the ADHD trap is I want to be productive. I have a list of things I need to do, but sometimes the thing that you want to do on your list is dependent on something else happening. And that sometimes change, if you've ever watched Malcolm in the Middle, there's a scene where the dad comes in and he goes to flip on a light in the kitchen and the light's burned out. And he's like, I gotta go change the light. So then he goes into the closet where the light bulbs are. And then he grabs a light bulb, or goes to grab a light bulb, and the shelf is crooked. And he's like, man, okay, so I gotta fix that. So then he goes out to the garage, grabs a tool to help fix it. And long story short, one thing leads to another to where it's 9 o'clock at night and he's out redoing the brakes on his car or something like that. It was another part that he was working on the car because he had to do that to get to the hardware store to get this, to fix that, to do that. And his wife comes out and she's like, "Hal, haven't you changed the light bulb?" And he's like, "I'm working on it," kind of thing. That spoke to me. I've been in that situation. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here is I've got to get the Nerf thing under control, but to do that I've got to get the Halloween stuff put up into the attic, and to do that, well, then that also means I have to kind of get the Christmas stuff pulled down as well, because Thanksgiving is in a few days and is that time of year. So that's where we are. That's what I'm working on today. Anywho, I'm testing out a new recording thing here. I have got my headphones on. I had thought that it was recording through my headphones before, but it apparently wasn't. Now, I don't know what all kind of background noise this stuff is going to pick up. Probably a lot. I don't know. So if you hear any other talking, that would be my wife, who works from home as well. She's downstairs and she's on conference calls. So hopefully it won't bleed in too far into that. Other than that, we are going to get up and get started. I would love to say that this is going to be a 15-minute job. So you set your timer. I don't know how long this is going to take me, but we're going to go ahead and do it. I'm the other guy in the room. I'm taking care of a task. You get your Goblin Mode List filled out. And again, on that, the Goblin Mode List doesn't have to be a thing for like right now. You can fill this thing out with repeating tasks. I've got a version of it. I'll take a picture of it at some point and post. But it's basically like I have a bunch of 5-minute tasks. I have some 15, 20-minute tasks. I have some 40-minute tasks. And some of those are repeating tasks. So they're ones that I'm going to have to do periodically anyway. So you fill the list out however you want. But this is me. This is what we're doing. I have got to get these put up there and those taken down here. And well, I figured since I had something to do, you have something to do. So let's get started doing the things that we need to do. And I'm just going to set the camera here. So I don't know, you get a shot of me trying not to kill myself going up and down the ladder into the attic. So I'm assessing. Living further in the south, attics generally tend to be pretty darn hot. Luckily, we've just had a cold front blow through a couple days ago, so it's not so soul-crushingly roasty as it normally I wouldn't say it's pleasant up here, but it's not nearly as hot. All right, go from big to small because that's what you do. Fun fact, a couple of years ago, this would have been just absolutely terrifying for me. Because I was a chunky boy. I was a lot bigger back then. So about a year and a half ago, my wife and I were getting our blood work done, and she was borderline pre-diabetic. My numbers were not good. We were just coming off of kind of, I guess, the whole aftermath of the COVID pandemic stuff. And, I realized that I didn't handle the pandemic as well as I thought I had. Turns out that I was a little bit of a stress eater. I realized that too. I mean, I should have known back whenever my wife got pregnant with our first kid. I put on 70 pounds. Our favorite activity was we would sit, eat dinner, and then watch The Biggest Loser as I was having seconds and thirds, and then going, oh, what's for dessert? After the kid was born, things calmed down. Weight came off, everything was fine. Then we had another kid, put on more weight, not all of it came back off, and then the pandemic hit, and I ended up, got up to my personal high of 320 pounds, and I tried as hard as I could to get weight off, desperately tried. Nothing seemed to work, and I'd finally just given up and said, I guess this is just me. I'm just fat now. And I don't know. You know how you just see some people and they fit whatever weight they're at. Like, I don't know. I have family members, that really heavy set guys that, I don't know, they just wore it. Just felt like that was like their natural body build or something like that. And I don't know, I just never felt like that was my body build. I never felt like I was that bodybuilding. Growing up, I was always the tall, skinny kid. I was a track runner, long distance, all that, bean pole. And so here I was, 320 pounds. We just moved into this house right before the pandemic hit. And, two-story house. So walking up and downstairs was just a nightmare. Did not like it. Hated the fact that every time I got up to the top of the stairs, I was a little winded. So I told a friend of mine at the time, I said, I don't feel sick, but I don't feel healthy either. And I feel like, I don't know, my fuel mileage is off. My car's exhaust system isn't running right. It just felt like the motor wasn't working real good. So I had decided I wanted to start losing weight. That was kind of my New Year's resolution, which I have since eschewed. I don't really do New Year's resolutions anymore. So we'll usually come up with like a slogan or something like that for the year. You know, I remember back in 2016, in the old days, it was like, it's 2016 time to do that thing because I was big on procrastinating. You know, there was 1 year to, I don't know, no mo FOMO. It was one of them. We weren't going to do any more of the fear of missing out. So anyway, long story short, I was like, okay, here it is in 2022. I'm going to be healthier. Just, that's it. And not lose weight, not whatever, just be healthier. And through our insurance company, my wife ended up getting put on a program called Verta. And Verta is, it's kind of like a modified keto diet. It is made specifically for managing blood sugar type stuff. And with her being pre-diabetic, that was what the doctor ordered. And, you know, sorry, these bins are not playing nice today. It's one of those things, you don't like to do things by yourself. You know, it's always good with company, with friends. And so I, as the person who cooks all the meals, also did not really feel like making a bunch of different food for everybody. I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do this with you. And we started Verta. And it's basically, like I said, it's a modified keto. There's, and again, I'm not a nutritionalist by any means. You look into whatever works for you. This is just my personal anecdote. So there's no grains. There's no, you know, no grains, no beans. Those are the ones you have to basically just alleviate altogether. There's a lot of different things. Like even in the vegetable department, we can't have like carrots and butternut squash and baked, we can't have potatoes obviously because of the starch. But you can't have like sweet potatoes or any of those. And it was so hard. It was so hard because I had a soda habit, if you will. I had a Coke habit. Yeah, I was drinking my Coca-Colas, Dr. Pepper, Mountain Dew, as long as it was sugary and caffeinated, you know. So I switched over to just drinking like the fizzy water. I quit drinking beer, which was really sad at the time because I had a couple that I really liked. If you're ever in the market, Cigar City Brewery has one called Unholy that is absolutely delicious, but it's like 9% and pretty evil if you let it. Anyway, quit all of that, and within maybe 5 months, I had lost 50 pounds. Like just, in fact, I had lost 50 pounds before anybody noticed it, before they were talking about it. And it was interesting because before all of this had started, so this was the beginning of 2022. So at the end of 2021, I've packed up all of our Christmas decorations and they sat up here for ages because I didn't want to I didn't want to get back on the ladder to get up into the attic. Because the last time, whenever I had taken everything down, it was freaking terrifying. You know, like I'm a big guy. If I slip off of this ladder, I go down this stairwell, and I'm just some dad my kids used to know. Or at my weight, I just go, and I'm on the floor, and oh look, I'm subsisting off of applesauce for the rest of my life. So I got up there. I remember getting up there and pulling everything down and just drenched in sweat. And it wasn't necessarily because it was such hard work. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's hot up in the attic, but I mean, it was kind of that fear sweat. It's that sweat that has all the endorphins in it that stinks, that you're just like, oh, And I didn't want to go through that again. So I had a doom pile over here of all the Christmas decorations that literally sat here for almost the entire year. In fact, I think they did. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly what the the date's tracking on that was. But here we are, fast forward, year and a half, 2 years later. I am at the lowest I've been in 17 years. So suddenly getting up in the attic wasn't that big a deal. And I didn't even notice it. Whenever we got up and pulled decorations down last year, my wife was like, wow, you just ran up there and just did that really quick. Last year you struggled and it was terrifying. And so sometimes when you get a little frustrated because the scale isn't telling you what you want to hear, the numbers aren't what you want to see. There's these what they call non-scale victories, and that was one of them. As I realized how easily it was for me to just come up here and grab a big heavy bin, pull it down. And not second guess every single step I took, because that's what I was doing. I was second guessing every single step because one wrong step and oops, and that just didn't appeal to me. So that the thought of getting up here is really not that big a deal. I mean, it's not my favorite, don't get me wrong. I did pest control for off and on about 9 years, which meant I spent a gloriously huge amount of time up in attics. I don't like attics. They're gross. They're hot. And if you have a rodent problem, oh God, it's even worse. So I'm not gonna lie. Here's some flashback activity coming off attics, especially the smell. Sorry if this gets loud, guys. This is a very crinkly bag. Okay, sorry about that. And that ends the ASMR section of our video. So, anywho, I was going to say part of that whole fitness journey, or just not even fitness, just getting healthier, come to the realization that I owe it to my kids. I don't want to. Do what my mom did to me, which was basically live a very unhealthy life and then die of cancer at a ridiculously young age. I mean, while I understand that a lot of the cancer issues were really uncontrollable, we have certain cancers that run in my family, but pack-a-day cigarette habit doesn't help. Living a sedentary lifestyle doesn't help. Any of that stuff. So I just decided, I gotta do something. Not for me. I do it for the kids. I mean, I kind of talked about it in the last video a little bit. I've, for whatever reason, have always found it easier for me to do stuff for other people than for myself. I don't know, upbringing, I don't know what it is, but there's just this aspect of, if I do something for myself, it feels selfish, but if I do something for other people, it feels altruistic, right, wrong, or otherwise. So here I am, getting healthy for other people, not for me. Not necessarily the right motivation, I know, but we've got it jump started, and that's the important part. So part of that whole thing was the Fitbit. So my wife had had one for a while, and she'd been hounding me. I'd say hounding me. She'd been like, "Hey, when are you gonna get the Fitbit? When are you gonna get it?" So finally, she bought me one for Christmas, and I put it on, and it squawks at me once an hour, to get 250 steps. And once an hour, invariably, either I am texting my wife or she's texting me with the term voot. Because if you haven't got your 250 steps for the hour, at the 50-minute mark, your Fitbit goes voot voot. And I thought, well, I'll just spell it out as voot voot. And so we kind of turned that into our own little language. So I was like, hey, voot alert, voot alert. Did you get your voots? It's just another word for steps. Kind of add some fun to it. And invariably, there's a lot of times my wife and I are walking in laps around the stairwell, getting our steps in for the hour so that you don't get stuck on a call. For instance, with the last video, for whatever reason, every time I tried to import it into the editor, because I don't really do a lot of edits, but I wanted to add just a little intro thing. It kept corrupting the file so that the first 15 minutes of the video is just black, dead silence. Or no, it had sound, but it was just black screen. And I went through, cleared out my computer, made space for it, tried it again, still didn't work. Rebooted everything, still didn't work. Took the old file off, re-imported it from my phone, and it still didn't work. It's still, and I don't know why. The best I could do was 8 minutes of blackness at the beginning of the video and everything. So I'm sitting there, I got my thing going, and I'm like, oh, hey, so I text my wife, hey, get your steps, whatever, and then promptly forgot. And I missed my steps for the hour. So you don't get the cool little animation at the end of the day because I've got mine set for 11. So for 11 hours out of the day, I need to get 250 steps an hour. And so I don't get my cool little animation that goes, hey, you got 11 of 11. And so, you know, I mean, I get it. I was busy. I was doing important stuff. But it's just like, oh man, I missed it. So it's just that little motivation just to not doom scroll, because if ADHD has taught me anything, it's that you can doom scroll on any site if you're spicy enough. And some days I have no urge to get on the internet, and then some days when I'm a little stressed out or I've got a lot on my plate, you find that you get those little dopamine rushes, you know. So it's getting on Facebook and scrolling, which, by the way, Facebook was actually designed to be like a slot machine, which is the most addictive machine that man has ever made. And they did it so that every time you logged on, it would show you something a little bit different, maybe something new, maybe something great, something, you know, because it keeps you pulling a handle, it keeps you hitting refresh, it keeps you coming back. I have literally been on my desktop looking at Facebook, and then I close it and I pick up my phone and I go, ooh, wonder what's on the smaller Facebook, because it will show me different stuff than my desktop does. That's by design, guys. So I catch myself doom scrolling on Facebook, or I catch myself doom scrolling on Imager. Imager is its own little social media enterprise that started out as just an image hosting thing for Reddit. It has kind of become its own thing. And I mean, what do they talk about? You know, you got your love languages, you know. The typical love languages are quality time, physical touch, acts of service, presence, and quality time, physical touch, acts of service, presence. I feel like I'm missing one. Quality time, acts of service, physical touch. Anyway, point being is there's also what they call neurodivergent love languages. And one of them is actually called pebbling. And pebbling is this behavior that they've noticed in penguins. When penguins find a penguin that they like, they look around and they find a really shiny rock and they go, ooh, I will give this to you. they had some researchers out there, and even the penguins would come and drop pebbles for them. And they're like, why are these penguins dropping rocks over here? And they're like, well, they're just saying, hey, I find you fascinating. Have this cool pebble I found. That is no different than when someone with ADHD or, pick a neurodivergency goes, I found this really cool meme and it made me think of you, and that gave me a boost of endorphins and some dopamines and some oxytocin and all them good feeling things, and so I want to give it to you so that you also have that feeling too, but then you also get the benefit of knowing that I was thinking about you when I found this. And that's one of my love languages, apparently, because I love swapping memes with people. I like to store them on my computer so that when a need arises, I have a meme at hand. Which also means that when the need arises, I have at least 3 memes on hand that all say something to the effect of, oh crap, I don't have a meme for this. But that's kind of my thing. So I will scroll on Imager looking for a fun meme to post or just something. Because so much of what you get on social media is very negative. I get it. Fear sells, anger sells. It's the easiest of the emotions to elicit. Happiness, joy, laughter, those are harder. You gotta dig deep for those. You gotta really dig in sometimes to find a positive about your day, kind of thing. It's always easy to find something negative. So getting up online, it's always easy to find something negative. So that thing, when I just stepped up in here, that was not a thing I could do. Here I am, stepping in and out of this habit with grace and aplomb, and only a little trepidation. I would say trepidation, more respect. Respect for the height. Instead of those bad behaviors defining me, I don't say they're bad. There's a judgment in that word. I don't like that. They're not optimal. They're not ones that I really enjoy as much. They're not, yeah. They're not behaviors that I am. They're not conducive to getting things done. It's a gateway for procrastination. So what I find is when I am doom scrolling, I use that as a test, as kind of an indicator. I have a phrase that I like to use saying, it's not a problem, it's a feature. And it's a type of reframing. So you can take a negative thing and reframe it into a positive thing. And so, like I said earlier in one of the videos, was that, with generalized anxiety and OCD, finding out that OCD was just a facet of an anxiety disorder, then what I started doing was I noticed when I'm doing my OCD things, when those are kicking off, I hit the brakes and go, okay, something's bugging me. Something's on my mind. What is it? And generally, once I figure out what it is, it goes away. So I use those things as a litmus, the canary in the coal mine, if you will. So if I am feeling particularly stressed out about something, or if I'm just doom scrolling nonstop, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I have been on Imager for an hour and a half. It's not because I'm looking for the perfectly curated meme to give to my friends. It's not that. It's because there's other stuff going on up here that's keeping me, that my brain doesn't want to think about. It goes, no, let's do this. Because every time you hit refresh and scroll, ooh, look, is there a new post? Is this a funny one? Is this a good one? Do I get a dopamine? Do I get that little bit of from it? Yeah. So then I have to sit in with my feelings and I have to go, okay, why am I doing this? And a lot of times it's because my to-do list got too big. My doom piles got too big. Everything got to be too big. It was too, it was just overwhelming enough that it was easier to just go, well, I'm just doing this. So instead of beating myself up for it, I go, okay, you're doing this. Let's get curious as to why. Someone once said that the opposite of judgment is curiosity. So don't judge yourself for having this like negative behavior or this negative thing. Get curious about why, So I used to beat myself up because, one of my OCD behaviors that kicks in was actually born out of boredom. When I was a kid, my parents got divorced when I was very little. And of course, this was back before the days of, real like co-parenting. They didn't live just in different towns, they lived in different states. And so every time I would go back and forth, it was usually 9 months at one house, 3 months at the other, vice versa, flip-flop. A lot of transients, a lot of travel. It was usually at least a 4-hour car drive. And as a kid in the car with just me and my dad, who he's a talker when he was around his friends, but he was not a talker when it came to his kids. He just didn't know how to relate. And so he didn't. And so it was just a 4-hour silent car ride. He wouldn't listen to the radio. It's just sitting there watching huge swaths of West Texas go by. And if you've ever been out in West Texas, there's just not much there. I mean, you count pump jacks and oil wells only so much before even that is just too boring. And so what I did one day is just a joke, or no joke, as a game, was as you're going down the road, there's the dotted line. And I was like, ooh, what if I was like a roller skater? And I was like, boom, 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 with each of the dotted lines, right? Each one was one skate. And I was pretending like I'm skating 65 miles an hour down the road. And then you would come up on a no passing zone, which is straight line, dotted line. And so then it was like, okay, one hand down, pat, 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 going faster this way. Ooh, double lines, 2 feet, pat, 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 pat. Oh, we're back to normal. Do this, do this. That became my game that I would play in my head. And what it would inadvertently do was tap my feet on the floorboard to the lines in the road. I am 52 years old, and I still do it. I started that game back when I was in like 3rd grade, 4th grade, somewhere around there. It's been that long. But I find I only do it when I got anxiety kicking up. That's one of those OCD things. Another one is I count spokes on the wheels of cars. I'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, let's count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And I do that. And then, okay, what's going on? My anxiety's up. So it's not a problem. It's a feature. I don't let it run away with me, because then I start getting curious about what has got my anxiety up. And sometimes it's something as simple as something happened and the schedule changed. And that set me off. That happens, and sometimes it's like, oh, yeah, no, it's just that schedule. I gotta go pick up the kids at a different time. Okay. And then suddenly that anxiety goes away once I have addressed it. I'm putting the ladder away. You can't see the garage. One thing I have learned with ADD stuff is that when you're done with the thing, you're not really done with the thing until you get all of the other stuff put away. Then you're done with the thing. That's been a hard thing for me to learn. So like I would finish a home project and go, it's finished. And then a week later, my tools are still sitting there. And my wife is going, are you ever going to put these up? He says as he looks down and sees his knee pads from when I remodeled the bathroom. I did not put those away. Oops, my bad. So, anywho, a really long conversation just to get around to the fact that whenever you're working out, your Fitbit will tell you, oh, you getting zone minutes. Walking from downstairs to upstairs used to give me zone minutes. And I would be up here fighting for my life. Okay. And now when I come up the stairs, I take them every other one. And I'm not that winded. So, you know, I'll take that as a win. So, anywho, we are done with our task for today. I'll still have to move all this stuff around into a little bit better place than where it is, but we're hitting about the 35-minute mark here, 36 minutes. So I hope you had a nice 30-minute task to take care of, and I will check out again later when I got to figure out something to do with all these Nerf guns, because, I mean, seriously, yeah, there's a lot. And I gotta find a place to store them because they are driving me nuts. I mean, you know, we've had them for a reason. They were fun. They are fun. We'll pull out the kids whenever they have a sleepover, and just everybody has we play Fortnite in real life at that point. But anywho, that's kind of what we're looking at. I got some other stuff going on. I think I may jump into doing some parallel play in the future. If you have anything that you would like to parallel play with, throw it down in the comment section. You know, if you like to read a book but listen to someone play video games, or, you know, or if you want to read a book while somebody else is reading a book, I can do that. I know how to read, usually. But yeah, just hit it in the comment section, and then I'll start posting some parallel play videos. Because sometimes it's okay to sit down for 15, 20 minutes and just let your brain rest. So, hope you've been having a wonderful day. Hope you have a wonderful tomorrow. And we will talk to you later. Bye. Hello, everybody. It is me, Scotty, your friendly neighborhood body double. And I am sitting in my car in Carline, waiting to pick up a passel of kids. And I decided that even though I don't have a good mount for my camera in my car, I'm just gonna prop my phone up and start talking because I'm frustrated. So I'm gonna talk for a few minutes. So if you've got a little short task you want to do, now would be the time. Knock yourself out. So I mean, this channel is obviously very new. I haven't been at this very long. In fact, I would say I had the idea for this channel all of, I don't know, 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. I'll go with that. Why not? Because it'd come out with a study that talked about body doubling and how ADHD people need a body double. And I've seen a couple of TikTokers that talk about it in the past, and it's like, okay, yeah, I get that. I tend to work better if someone else is in the room with me. Sometimes that's just for accountability's sake. It's harder for me to veer off task if someone is sitting there going, what are you doing? You know, as a kid, I was famous for, you know, sitting down, and my mom would go, all right, go clean your room. And then I would go and start cleaning my room, and an hour later she would come in and I was playing because I would be cleaning, and then I would come across something, ooh, haven't seen this in forever. I need to play with this. And, you know, anyway, story of my life. So my wife, I work better if she's in the room, because then if I start veering off, and, you know, especially, oh my gosh, I went through to organize some photos here a while back. I just had a box. I was just trying to consolidate a couple of boxes of photos. And it was literally 4 hours of me looking through individual photo after photo after photo. I didn't need to. I was just saying, hey, here's old photos, here's new photos, here's whatever. And I would get so sidetracked. And I would just sit there and I'm looking at photos and looking at photos. And if someone had been in the room with me, I probably could have got it done in 30 minutes, 40 minutes. But instead, I fell right down that rabbit hole. So I understand the value of body doubling. So I started looking into it. And one of the things that they just recently had come out with this study that said that, you know, body doubling is a real thing. It does help. And that, ironically, the body double doesn't have to be in the room with you. It can be anywhere, on video, something like that. And I got to thinking, I'm like, you know, when I am in my busy mode, I know there's a couple of different definitions for Goblin Mode, but I like Goblin Mode just because, I don't know, I like playing D&D, and I like the little clicky-clacky that the dice make, so, you know, that activates my Goblin thing. But I also know that Goblins work better in groups. Individually, they're chaotic and useless. It's kind of how I feel sometimes. But in a group, they're chaotic and they get stuff done. So, anyway, I completely lost my train of thought. So anyway, I started looking up videos, like, okay, what about body doubling? What's out there? And there are psychologists, there are therapists, there are people that, you know, licensed professionals, of which I am not, that talk about it. They go off, you know, and they do talk about the benefits of body doubling and what that can mean and how it can help and everything. But there's not really been anybody that's just like, hey, how do you body double? Well, I do it by just saying, hey, you know what? I have a task I need to get done, and I'm going to sit in the room with you. Or you can sit in the room with me while I do it. And if that allows you the opportunity to go through and get some stuff done by having someone else's voice in your ear, you know, that is a good thing. So I have an alarm on my phone set for when I go to pick the kids up, and it just picked up on the screen, and now I can't get my phone rebalanced. Okay, here we are. This is my life. Ooh, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So one of the problems I also have with ADHD is absolutely just being obliterated by perfectionism. I've been a procrastinator my entire life, and I found out fairly recently that it's based on perfectionism. So there's kind of this idea that if I can't do it perfectly, I don't want to do it at all. If I got to wait for the right time, I got to wait for the right this, I got to wait for the right that. So over the years, you know, that's been kind of a nice realization that, you know, I'm not lazy, but as a perfectionist, you know, sometimes you got to get out of your own head. And so a couple of years ago, I decided to start a new hobby. When the pandemic was in full swing, all of my creative endeavors had dried up. I used to do stage work, so I had a weekly stage production that we did for kids. I was the comic host. I was the funny guy, and I loved it. It was an absolute amazing outlet, and that was gone. And I wasn't writing anymore, and I had nothing to really, like, I don't know, I felt like I had to create. And so I started watercolors and doing that with inking, and I really got into it. And after about 50 watercolor paintings, I had an epiphany. And I jumped online and I made what was quite possibly one of the best impulse purchases I have ever had in my entire life. I remember after I had made the order, I come downstairs and I was like, honey, I just bought a puppet. She's like, what? I said, yeah, I just bought a puppet. And I got this puppet. It's a little orange monster. And it's one of those things, like when I was writing, you know, my wife would ask me, or my friends would ask me how I come up with what I wrote. And I would say, well, it's not for me so much like writing as it is I'm transcribing the movie that's playing in my head, you know. And they would say, well, yeah, but you're the creator. You can make these characters do anything. And I said, yeah, I can try. But a lot of times these I'm just watching what's happening. I'm as much a spectator as the person reading the book. It's just me trying to get as much detail down so that it's a clear picture for everybody. Because I'm seeing it in like 4K surround vision with smell-o-vision type thing. And it's kind of one of those things that when I opened the bag, there's just this little orange monster, furry monster in there. And from the moment I put him on, I knew his voice. Like, he came out of the bag a fully formed creation. It was really weird. Like, it just, I don't know. I have played around with this guy, and I've changed his voice a couple of times, and every single time the feeling I get is like, the thought that I get in my head is, that's gross. That's gross. Don't do that. And even my little monster will look at me and he will say, don't put those words in my mouth. I didn't like that. You know, like, he's a fully formed character. Anyway. So I decided to take up puppeteering. And so then I get into it and I give him a haircut and I style it and I get him the way he's supposed to look. So now he has a tongue, his little haircut, and I made him a shirt that had his name on it. Scatter, by the way, is his name. Scatter Monster. And I was like, okay, I'm going to keep practicing and practice and practice and practice. And then when I get really good, I'm going to start a TikTok or something like that so that I can make videos. And my wife was like, well, why don't you just make one now? And I'm like, well, I'm not good enough right now. I'm going to do it when I get better. I'm going to do it when I get good enough to warrant being out there. And she said something to me that is probably the most inspirational, deepest, intelligent things that I have ever had anybody tell me in the 52 years I've been on this planet. And it spoke to me on such a colossally deep level that I still hear that original comment bouncing around in my head, and especially in moments like this, which is, she looked me dead in the eyes and said, honey, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. And suddenly I could look back over my life at 1,000 different times that I had a failure to launch, or that I started something and immediately stopped because I wasn't good enough. I wasn't perfect. And I never let myself get better, you know? So I started just recording the most insane, stupid stuff ever. And I look back on some of the early stuff I recorded, and yeah, it's a little cringe. But I can compare it to the stuff I do now, and I see growth. And I see how I would have let a really good thing disappear if I had focused so hard on perfection. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with this channel, is that I was like, okay, I just have to start getting stuff done. If I wait until I have got everything perfected on how to do everything, A, my doom piles are never going to go away. B, I'm like, nothing's ever going to get done. It's always going to be like, well, I'll film tomorrow when I get this, or I'll film when I get this, or when I get that. You'll see I wear these. These are the Shocks, the bone conduction headphones. I wear them all the time. That's just what I do. Because I still like to listen to music, listen to audiobooks, listen to podcasts while I'm working throughout the day, because I need a body double too, guys. I had originally set it up on my phone so that it would record through these. So it didn't matter where the camera placement was. I could just walk away and you'd still hear me. I'm still talking. It's still whatevering. And I realized that it wasn't. So in my first video, there's a spot where I walk away. I'm talking to my wife. I thought it was picking up the whole conversation. It was not. So I went on to my settings on my camera to do 360 audio recording from Bluetooth headphones. And I did that. I turned that on. I'm like, okay, we're doing this. So I just spent 37 minutes recording a video of me basically taking all of my Halloween decorations, putting them up in the attic, pulling out my Christmas ones, and talking about different things while I was doing it. And it didn't matter if I was up in the attic or when I walked downstairs to the garage, because it was supposed to record through the headphones. And then I found out it didn't. And it upset me. It made me mad. Anger is a secondary emotion, by the way. Fun fact. So I dig below the anger. Had to get curious. Why am I angry? Well, it's disappointment. I was disappointed because all of that time is wasted. I'm not going to throw the video away. I'm going to go ahead and post it. You can just pretend it's you sitting on one spot in the room and my little ADD riddled butt was walking away while talking, and you just said, okay, this is what he's doing now. Bye. He'll be back. And you just get whatever the camera picked up. I'm still posting it. But it's frustrating. I was frustrated. It reminded me of my son. When he hit toddler age, he would have these horrendous outbursts. And he'd get downright disrespectful in some of these outbursts, and he would get in trouble. And finally I told him, I said, son, we have to learn to use our words. I said, so when something like this is going on, if you're angry and you start yelling and you start slamming things around, you're going to get in trouble. But if you say, Dad, I'm frustrated, then we can use our words and we can figure out what's going on. And I would play 20 questions, like, do you have the words for what you're frustrated about, whatever. And I found once he got the communication skills, that one little lifeline, instead of throwing a tantrum, he would say, Daddy, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated. You haven't lived until you got a 2-year-old tell you, I'm frustrated. Okay, buddy, what is it? Let's talk it out. And I have to teach myself that same lesson. So instead of getting mad and letting it take over, that little voice popped into my head. Scotty, I'm frustrated. Frustrated. Why am I frustrated? Well, because now this video is wasted and we've taken all that time and blah, 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 blah. What am I going to do? Let perfection get in the way of progress? No. We learned a lesson today. This was a learnable lesson. We learned the lesson of, okay, sometimes shit happens, pardon my French, but you move on. You deal with it. You learn from it. You move forward. That's what life is. We have to learn to live and find joy in the mundane. We have to learn to find growth aspects of setbacks. It's not a problem, it's a feature. And the reason was, and this was something that I absolutely love. And I'm not gonna get the quote right. I'm not even gonna try to get it right, but the sentiment is, I don't want perfection. There's no growth in perfection. Once something is perfect, it ceases to grow. And the beauty is in the growth. Perfection is a dead thing. Again, something I wish I had been told 47 years ago, as I was desperately not doing tons of things because it wasn't perfect. Perfection is a dead thing. There's a beauty in that. So when I'm off the mark, I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm not going to rage against the machine. You know, I mean, I'll get mad, don't get me wrong. Oh, hey, tap the phone. Here we go. You know, but as a reframing, you know, it's not failure. It's a growth opportunity. You know, how do I grow from this? Where do I go from there? Well, I went online, and because Black Friday is a thing, was able to order a couple of lapel mics for next to nothing. So that's been nice. They will come in. I'll get those charged up, and from there on, I'll just be wearing a lapel mic, and it won't matter. And then I'll mess up something else, and another video will be stupid, and that will be okay. That'll be okay. So whatever it is you've got going on, doesn't have to be perfect. That'll be okay. And it's not going to be perfect every single day, because how boring would that be? It was kind of this idea that without suffering, how do you know what joy is? You know, Adam and Eve, they were in the Garden of Eden. They had paradise. They had it all. Everything was given to them, and they didn't appreciate it until they were kicked out. They went, oh, well, we didn't know what we had, because they had nothing to compare it to. They had no baseline. So, yeah, let's look at it like that. So, anywho, that was it. I was just kind of frustrated and had to get stuff off my chest. Like I said, I will be posting the other video. I will be posting this one. Obviously, you're watching it now. I obviously posted it. You know, we got changes that are coming because this is a growth thing. It's everything. I learn a little something different, and that's the same as it was when I was taking up puppeteering. You know, learning different things and learning that just because I did something wrong doesn't mean that I was horrible. Doesn't mean, oh, this is terrible. Oh, throw it away. No, it just means, okay, this was an area of growth for me, and that's okay. So if you're working on something and it's not perfect, I see you. And I appreciate you. You're gonna do okay. Just keep doing it. Don't let perfection get in the way of your progress. So, anywho, we burned through about 20 minutes. So hopefully you were able to get some stuff done. I don't know, in 20 minutes I might be able to do a couple of dishes or something. Who knows? Fold a sock or two. I've found that with my life with ADD, ADHD, I don't even, whatever you want to call it, there's new names coming up. I don't know what the preferred terminology is these days, but when I was younger, there was ADD and then there was ADHD, and then like, no, they're all together. Anyway, long story short, I am horrible at time management and estimating how long a task will take, because in my head, it should take like 5 minutes, and then an hour and a half later, I'm finally like, oh, oops, that was the longest 5 minutes I ever took. Also, it could have been a task that would only have taken 30, but because of the spiciness, sometimes we get sidetracked. It happens. So anyway, that was it. I just wanted to take 25 minutes of my day to tell you not to let perfection get in the way of progress. Keep going, keep chugging, keep moving, keep doing. You're gonna be all right, kid. And if you're not a kid, that's okay too. You're gonna be all right, person. So, anywho, have a wonderful day, and I will see you later.